Hi everybody, I'm Beebs Kelly. Welcome back to another video. So Meghan Markle did an interview with Fast Company. I've never heard of them, but they do like business news, I guess. And the title of the article is How Meghan Built Her Pioneering Partnership with Netflix. As the first season of her podcast ends, Meghan is looking to build on the success of As Ever, the brand she built with Netflix. I feel like that's a little bit misleading because the article doesn't actually tell us how she built her pioneering relationship with Netflix. It doesn't explain it, but let's get into it and dissect some of the nonsense that Meghan says. It begins inflating Meghan's ego. Meghan carries many titles these days. Besides being the Duchess of Sussex, she's a podcaster, a philanthropist, a children's book author, the star of a Netflix show, and the founder of a direct-to-consumer startup. But when I sit down to speak with her, she says she's recently taken on a new role, that of the Tooth Fairy. Ugh. Okay, before we get to that, let's just take a look at these, okay? Duchess of Sussex, no more, really. She hasn't been to Sussex in like 6 or 7 years, right? She doesn't do anything for the county of Sussex. She doesn't do anything with the royal family. She doesn't have a royal role. So I don't feel like it's very fitting to keep calling her the Duchess of Sussex in these endeavors and in these spaces. I don't think that makes sense anymore. A philanthropist, I feel like that's kind of a stretch just because the amount of things that Meghan and Harry have done through Archewell and as philanthropists just is falling short. In fact, I have a video planned talking about everything that Archewell technically did last year and how a lot of it was just kind of vacuous and empty and a little bit more just for show. Let's put it that way. A children's book author, okay, clarification. That was a poem she wrote for Harry. And she put it in a children's book, a picture book. That doesn't make sense. It wasn't really a children's book. It was a poem for adults in a picture book. And it sucked. It was horrible. I have a review on it. I'll try to link for you. The star of a Netflix show that's not doing very well. And the founder of a direct-to-consumer startup that is reviewed poorly, that has terrible products. Okay, so let's just take it down a notch. Let's calm down. Archie, her 6-year-old son, recently lost his first tooth. Meghan rushed home to ensure she could be the one to leave a little money and a small dinosaur under his pillow. At 2 a.m., Archie woke Meghan up excitedly to tell her what had happened. I had a lot of business meetings the next morning, but I still chose to cuddle with him the rest of the night, she says. Those mom moments energized me to be a better founder, a better employer, a better boss. Okay. We get it, Meghan. You want to fight back against the bullying accusations that are well documented and verified. We get it. But what mom wouldn't? Does she want a gold star for doing what every mom does? I don't understand. It's weird to phrase it that way. I had a lot of meetings the next morning, but I still chose to do this mom thing. As if she needs credit or a pat on the head. That's the thing with being a mom. It's selfless. It doesn't matter what you have the next day. If something's going on with your kids, you do it. You're there. And you don't need a pat on the head for it because that's just what you do. And you don't need to tell people I still chose. Yes, me. That's how it always comes across with Meghan. Look at what I did. So much better than what you would have chosen. These are the kinds of work-life details that Meghan likes to get into on her podcast series, and exactly why no one cares about the podcast series, because they're mundane. They're what everybody would choose. They're common sense. They're not special, okay? They're not interesting, and they're not helpful. On the show, Meghan talks with female founders about the origins of their business, along the lines of Guy Raz's How I Built This. Oh, so she stole from him as well, the concept. But the show also has another dimension. It allows Meghan to get practical advice about launching her own lifestyle brand As Ever. I'm pulling back the curtain to allow people to see the candid experience of being a founder. But she's not really. I feel like if she wanted to do this and be like, this is how I built the business. I didn't know anything about business, so I came into this wanting to build a brand for something, but knowing nothing. And this is how I figured it out. That would have been interesting, but it would have needed to be something that she documented differently. You know what I mean? Sitting around and talking like she does never delivers any value. If she really wanted to show people how she did a business, that could have delivered value in giving people a bit of a template and walk through as she walked through it, but she didn't do it that way because this is just a sort of retrospective podcast that she flies off the rails all the time and talks about nonsense. Something that was a little bit more like real time. She was like maybe filming herself doing, like, I don't want any more Meghan content. Don't get me wrong. I don't. But I'm thinking from her perspective of wanting to do this in this way. If she was like filming herself doing these things in real time and keeping a log or a video diary and then putting it out and explaining the steps she went through as more of like a informative sort of a way, I feel like that would have had some value. But this version has no value. A pioneering Netflix deal. A little over the top. In her conversation with Sarah Blakely, Meghan talks about how she partnered with Netflix to create As Ever, her new brand. Oh, they capitalized the E. Shame on them. Meghan does not capitalize the E, which launched in February. The line included products like tea, jams, honey, cookie mixes, and her iconic flower sprinkles, which are edible petals that spruce up dishes. Ugh, no they don't. They're gross. Over the past few years, even as Netflix subscriber numbers have continued to show impressive growth, has it? I've only heard that like they're losing subscribers. It has also been exploring how it can create products tied to the content of shows. The streaming service now has an online shop that sells everything from cosplay costumes, like merch basically, just merch of all of these things. The streaming service produced its own products like coffee mugs, but also licensed branding to other companies to produce dresses. Okay. Meghan says that she had been exploring various ways of launching a business when Bella Baharia, Netflix's chief content officer, approached her. At the time, I had been working towards building my own in-house team, Meghan says, but I had a complete U-turn because I completely bought into the vision she was sharing, which is where content and commerce meet, not in a product placement way, but rather in an ideological way. Well, it is product placement because the concept was for Meghan to be using the products that will be available through As Ever in her show with the branding on it to be product placement as a marketing thing, like free advertising basically. But she didn't have it all together in time, so the products that she was using, like the liquid jam and, you know, the crepes and stuff that she made in the finale, didn't have the actual products available because Meghan was late to get it done. In many ways, this pioneering partnership, okay, calm down. For Netflix, along with Meghan, the Netflix team decided that it made sense for As Ever to exist on its own. Okay, is that a typo? The Netflix team decided that it made sense for As Ever to exist on its own. Shouldn't it be exist on its own without any Netflix branding? This is why the line isn't called With Love Meghan like the show. The brand is in the same universe as the show, but they're not the same. Okay, Meghan, we're not talking about the Spider-Verse here and whatnot. The problem with As Ever not having the same name as With Love Meghan is that she's launching them all at the same time, and she is confusing the general public as to what exactly is going on. What are these things? What is Meghan doing? What is the identity of this brand? Because she's conflated the two things, because neither of them had an independent launch with a strong brand behind them. That's the problem that we talked about with the 3 fails at the same time video. I'll link that for you guys. From a PR perspective, she robbed herself of any opportunity to carve out a clear identity for any of her individual projects that she's launched in 2025 because she did them all at the same time. So none of them are clear and defined from one another. It would have been a lot more successful to just call it With Love Meghan. And I bet, based off of this right here, that this was a sticking point, that Meghan was like, I will not have the products be Netflix branded. Like, she didn't want that because it would probably, to her, feel like it cheapened the products. She wanted them to be their own thing and not have Netflix on it. So then they had to call it As Ever. They had to give it a different brand name, a different identity, because she refused to let it just be the same way as like Bridgerton merch and Squid Game and Stranger Things merch. She didn't want it to be like With Love Meghan merch and products. She didn't want it to be in Netflix's control or have Netflix's branding, and that's a huge mistake. She should have just let it be With Love Meghan the show, With Love Meghan products. That would have been so much more streamlined for consumers of the content and the products and the public at large. Meghan also points out that Netflix is not just a financial backer. The company's consumer packaged goods team works closely with Meghan's team to manufacture the products. We are on calls daily working through product development, SKUs, and inventory. We have a field trip tomorrow to look at different manufacturers and suppliers as we expand the brand, probably because everything sucked, the manufacturers they used the first time. But this is just revealing that Meghan has overcomplicated the situation. By not letting Netflix kind of just take this on and Meghan be the kind of creative force behind it, and just letting Netflix do it, that would have been so much better. It would have been so much more clear, streamlined, and easier and simpler. She wouldn't have to be on calls every single day trying to coordinate her team with their team. It would just be their team that she comes on for all the major decision making and creative concepts for. Like, that would have been way easier for everyone involved and probably delivered way better results. What comes next for As Ever? As Ever's first collection was a runaway success. Meghan says that I think that's a stretch. That's a stretch because even though it sold out, as we've discussed, it was reviewed extremely poorly. Meghan says that even though the team spent a year preparing the line and forecasting demand, the product sold out in 45 minutes. Now they're trying to plan As Ever's next phase. I think they underestimated the number of journalists and reviewers that were getting it just to review it. The easiest thing to do would have been to endlessly restock the popular products, which would likely sell out very quickly again. I don't think so. But while the As Ever team has hinted online that the items will be back on sale soon, Meghan also wants to take a step back, gather data from the launch, and figure out exactly what As Ever could be. So her long-term vision is still up in the air. She says she's planning to announce new products in the first quarter of 2026. Fine. Okay. Take some time. Make that jam either packaged as sauce, because it's a sauce, or thicken the jam, please. There are some clues about what new items might be in the pipeline. Meghan's trademark application for her brand includes things like cookbooks, tableware, cutlery, servingware. I really want to focus on the hospitality angle of As Ever, but as we take the learnings, we can understand what the customer's needs are seasonally. I don't like this phrasing. The way that she talks about this is a little too pretentious. As we take the learnings, we can understand what the consumer's needs are seasonally. Okay, Meghan. There are now many models for successful celebrity brands. As Meghan contemplates what comes next, there are many directions she could go, from focusing on a single product category like Rare Beauty or Skims, or a broader play like Goop or The Honest Company. But for now, she believes it makes sense to build a brand around a single idea. I mean, yeah, that's smart. Like I said, like I've been saying, start small, then grow. The chaos is too much for people. I mean, like for anything, the chaos is too much. It's just confusing and it befuddles the public of like what is going on here. My heart is very deeply in my home. Everything comes from being rooted in the love story of your home and garden, and then you can imagine different verticals coming out of that. Verticals like what, Meghan? Okay? Verticals like what? And why must she speak this way? The love story of your home and garden. Okay, not everybody has a home and garden. I think the problem is that this overworking and overthinking that Meghan does, where she says nothing at all because she's too obsessed with making it sound fancy. She should have just said, like, she has a passion for homemaking and whatnot, and she wants to share that through this brand. That would have felt a lot more personal from a PR perspective. Coaching Meghan into speaking in a more personal way rather than this sort of condescending, I want it to sound fancy and then it ends up being empty sort of a way. By communicating more like, my intention is to share my passion for homemaking because it fills my cup. Like, even just that would be more personal and connect with people better than this. The love story of your home and garden, and then you can imagine different verticals coming out of that. That is a nothing sentence, and it sounds ridiculous. In the future, though, the sky's the limit. Oh, no, it's not. I think she's reached her limit. We've reached our limit. I ask whether she might explore a clothing business, since many women are drawn to her personal style. Don't be fooled. The category of fashion is something I will explore at a later date, because I do think that's an interesting space for me. Let's hope not. As she continues building as ever, there's a good chance we'll hear about her twists and turns through a podcast. This needs a proofread. This needs to be edited and fixed. Somebody proofread this. There's interest in doing a second season of Confessions of a Female Founder, and many female founders have approached her to be a guest on the series. That's kind of surprising. But Meghan is now involved in such a wide range of projects, she's sure to find some way to tell her story. If I had to write a resume, I don't know what I would call myself. I think it speaks to this chapter many of us find ourselves in, where none of us are one note. But I believe all the notes I am playing are part of the same song. She said the same thing so many times. Oh my goodness. So, as you can see, this did not explain how this came to be. With the exception of being like, oh, she was approached by somebody and bought into their vision. But how? What was the vision? And I tell you why she didn't explain it. Because the vision probably was, hey, let's do this. We'll do the merch side of it. You'll be like the creative lead on the merch. And she was like, no, it needs to be my own thing. It needs to be a separate brand. I don't want it to be Netflix branded. And then everything got overcomplicated from there. And here we are, full of problems because she's too difficult to work with. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a happy day ahead and I'll see you next time. Bye.